watching HW News. This is me, Anusha. So tomorrow, Chinese President Xi Jinping is all set to arrive in Chennai, where he is going to attend the informal summit with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where both the leaders are going to discuss about a lot of matters. So today's show is pretty special, and we have with us foreign expert affairs, Mr. Shishadri Chari. Welcome to the show, sir. Tomorrow, Xi Jinping is going to attend the informal summit with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. First of all, why it is called an informal summit? And why especially Mallapuram, I'm sorry.
Mamallapuram.
Yes.
That is Mahabalipuram it is called. See, basically what happens is in case of all negotiations between leaders of two countries, the negotiations take place on a formal note and an informal note. So when there is a negotiation with a particular agenda, and which is a fixed agenda where they have to arrive at a particular conclusion and draw an agreement, it is usually in a formal format, which is again attended by the secretaries and other officials. Whereas in an informal meeting, there is no specific agreement, but there is a specific agenda. Agreement and agenda are different. So in an informal meeting, there are broad parameters on which the negotiations take place, the talks takes place. So it is more or less talks and not negotiations. But when it meets at the summit level, summit is usually meetings at the top level, top decision making levels. So the Prime Minister of India and the President of China are people who make decisions. So that is why it is called a summit meeting. There will be decisive actions following this meeting, but it will still be very informal, which will not be directly assisted by secretaries and other officials.
Okay.
So that is why it is usually called informal meetings, but informal meetings are more important than even formal meetings. It is informal meetings that usually lead to negotiations, and then formal meetings, and then agreements, then action taken report.
And why do you think it is the location, Mamallapuram? Why it
See,
is so important?
Mamallapuram is a very important location from the point of view of China. These meetings, usually these diplomatic meetings, especially the informal meetings, have a lot of significance as far as symbolism is concerned.
Okay.
Wuhan was very symbolic for China. In 1967, at the height of Cultural Revolution, there was a challenge to Mao Zedong, who was leading the Cultural Revolution, and the chairman's own position was challenged by people in Wuhan. The PLA was divided between the forces in Wuhan and the PLA forces that were leading the fight from Beijing. So what happened was the forces in Wuhan were put down. Actually, there was a coup. Of course, the Chinese historians will never agree that there was a coup, but it was a coup, and the Mao's position was challenged. So more than 1,000 people in Wuhan, the army that represented Wuhan, were killed, and tens of thousands were injured. But finally they were all declared as counter-revolutionaries, and Mao established his power. If you remember, Wuhan took place almost 70 days after Doklam.
Yes.
Doklam, according to Xi Jinping, those who are reading Xi Jinping closely feel that Xi Jinping was actually sending a message to PLA that it is I who decide, not PLA. So Doklam probably was conducted without the permission of Xi Jinping, and that India faced a huge embarrassing problem at that time. So when the informal meeting was already decided, they had to wait for 70 days for Doklam to subside. But of course, both the leaders, when they met in Wuhan, they scaled down the tensions, and things went on very well. So Wuhan was very important for China, and Mahabalipuram was the capital of the Pallava Empire in the 7th century BC. And Pallava Empire had trade links not only with East Asia and Southeast Asia, but also with China. So much so that when the Chinese forces were defeated by Tibetan forces, it was Pallava army which assisted China in regaining the lost territory. So it becomes very important. We are sending a message saying that this is not the first time that China and India are engaging as far as trade, commerce, industry is concerned. Pallava Empire has already done it. So Mahabalipuram plays an important role as far as symbolism is concerned. So it's a very good move that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made.
You have spoken how successful the Wuhan summit was. What can we expect from this informal summit this year?
No, see, this informal summit is actually a carry forward of the Wuhan summit. The Wuhan spirit was that India and China are not conflicting with each other. Of course, our constituencies are the same, but China looks at India as an important friend as far as this region is concerned.
Right.
With the ongoing US-China trade war, China needs countries which has a considerable influence in the world capitals, but which is at the same time not aligned towards the West, especially the US. And India has always maintained its equilibrium as far as dealing with China and Japan is concerned, as far as dealing with Israel and Palestine is concerned, as far as dealing with Russia and US is concerned, and similarly dealing with US and China is concerned. So when we have maintained this strategic autonomy as far as our foreign policy is concerned, and that is where country like China, India is very important for China, especially at this juncture when they are facing serious issues as far as their productivity and market both are concerned because of the trade war that is going on between US and China. Of course, we have to play our cards very carefully. We are not on the side of US as far as trade is concerned, and for that matter, US has not bestowed any great trade favors as far as we are concerned. But at the same time, we are competing with China as far as Southeast Asia and East Asia is concerned. So we are not an Asian power. China is also not an Asian power. We have a global presence. China also has a global presence. But at the same time, it is important for China and India to cooperate or work in a spirit of cooperation and not work in a spirit of confrontation. So this is going to emerge from the informal talks.
So you have spoken about the trade war. Apart from that, Pakistan's stand on Jammu and Kashmir is also one of the vital matter. So do you think that there will be some kind of a cooperation in that matter as well?
No, we are not seeking any cooperation as far as Pakistan is concerned vis-a-vis China and our talks with Xi Jinping. Incidentally, Xi Jinping has very categorically stated when Imran Khan met him 2 days back, he has said that all issues between India and Pakistan are of bilateral nature and they have to resolve it bilaterally, which is also our stand. So we don't want US intervention in our talks, we don't want Chinese intervention as far as India-Pakistan issues are concerned. So we have made it very clear that the abrogation of Article 370 is an internal matter, it's a domestic matter and we are resolving it from our domestic point of view. As far as Pakistan occupied Kashmir is concerned, our stand has been that it is an it's a territory belonging to India, illegally occupied by Pakistan, and a part of it is illegally ceded to China as far as Akshay Chin is concerned. China requires that portion very importantly because that is the entry point as far as China-Pakistan economic corridor is concerned, and China-Pakistan economic corridor is also very important for China to have an entry point into Indian Ocean region so that they can do trade with Central Asia and Africa. So these are all some of the geopolitical dynamics that China is concerned about, which India is also concerned. Therefore, I think there will be a broad consensus on these issues rather than picking on nitty-gritties as far as India-Pakistan relationship is concerned. In any case, India is not willing to be bracketed with Pakistan as far as China is concerned.
So apart from Jammu and Kashmir stand, do you think they are going to bring the topic like LAC or the Doklam issue in this?
Doklam is past. Doklam is not being discussed at all as far as China and India-China diplomatic relationship are concerned. Of course, trade is going to be an important aspect, and I think more importantly that will be discussed. And Doklam is not going to be an important subject at all, because China and India both would like to forget the Doklam incident. Of course, the border dispute is still there, and the border talks have taken place in November 2018. There was the first talk between special representatives. It was called SR talks. So between India and China. So a national security advisor of both the countries, who are also SRs, had met, and they were supposed to meet this time also, but because of probably this meeting, that SR meeting has been postponed to an indefinite date, but eventually that will happen. So when that happens, there will be the next round of border talks between India and China, and we are open to all kinds of suggestions as far as border talks are concerned. Similarly, China also we have resolved border talks, border disputes with almost all the countries, including even Russia and Mongolia. But of course, there are some issues pending between China and Bhutan and China and India, which we are prepared to resolve. But of course, the resolution has to take place in an atmosphere of give and take. So that is what we will be impressing upon the Chinese visitors.
So US has recently put restrictions on Uyghur Muslims. What do you think in this informal summit? Is India going to take a stand on this matter?
No, India has always taken a stand saying that any infringement on human rights is unacceptable to us. We have taken this stand as far as Baluchi people in Pakistan are concerned, as far as people in the northwestern region of Pakistan are concerned. We have taken up this issue in Palestine, we have taken up this issue with USSR, we have taken up this issue with even West Asia, we have taken up this issue with China also, and we are also mentioning this issue in Tibet, we have mentioned it. So we are against any use of state force as far as these rebellions and opposition is concerned. But at the same time, China's stand on Uyghur Muslims is very different. They are saying that these people are rebels against the state, and China would not like anything. Like what happened in Wuhan, like what happened in Tiananmen Square, they are looking at it from that point of view. And any infringement on the political right of the state, as far as China is concerned, they would not like it. US has imposed visa restrictions on Chinese officials, not on all Chinese, only Chinese officials who are visiting US, and this is the US as America's way of diplomatically dealing with some countries. I think China will also reciprocate. So that is a matter that concerns the visiting dignitaries of China to US and vice versa. As far as India is concerned, we have no such restrictions, but of course we would probably impress upon the Chinese visitors and Chinese officials that they should not expose themselves to human right violations to the extent to which they have done as far as Uyghur Muslims are concerned.
Now, sir, amidst the tension that is going on in our country related to the Article 370, do you think that how important this informal summit is for our country, especially when our neighboring, the country Pakistan is, and the India and China?
No, as far as 370 is concerned, I don't think there is any tension as far as 370 is concerned. A. B. The summit talks between Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi is not going to refer anything to 370. Abrogation of Article 370 is a domestic matter, internal matter. It was a temporary provision in the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India has nothing to do with China. Constitution of India provides for the changes that has to be made. Parliament is supreme as far as the Constitution of India is concerned, as far as the addition, deletion, amendment of Constitution is concerned. So it's an internal matter. We have made it very clear to the whole world. China wanted to make it an international affair vis-a-vis Pakistan's demand, but that did not stick. Even in the internal meetings that UNGC was supposed to hold, the closed door meeting, even in the closed door meeting, there was no consensus on this issue, there was no resolution on this issue. They discussed and closed the chapter. Therefore, it was a big setback not only for Pakistan but also China. China's concern as far as abrogation of Article 370 and the Jammu Kashmir issue is concerned, China has taken a very clear stand, by the way, that any issue between India and Pakistan is a bilateral issue and they have to sort it out bilaterally. But pending that, China is concerned as far as POK is concerned, Pakistan occupied Kashmir is concerned, because although it is the part and parcel of India, a small portion of that POK has been illegally ceded to China, and that is the entry point for China-Pakistan economic corridor, through which China will be able to get an entry point into Indian Ocean region. To that extent, China is concerned about POK, and China is also keeping a close watch on what transpires between India and Pakistan as far as POK and Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. To that extent, China is interested. Otherwise, China has no legitimate right to comment on either Article 370 or the internal matters of India or the talks between India and Pakistan on all issues, including J&K, which is a bilateral issue.
Right. So, as we have said, that amidst all the tension with Article 370 and many other matters that is going on in our country, Chennai is all geared up for this high-level summit that is going to happen tomorrow with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping. We'll update you with all the information on this matter. Until then, stay tuned to hwnews.in.